Imagine you go to work and your boss puts two envelopes in front of you. In one envelope is $500. Your boss is adding $500 to your paycheck. In the other envelope is $500 in coupons for your grocery store. Assume that you will use all these coupons. Which envelope do you take? Now, most people would say, give me the money. $500 is familiar, it's flexible, you spend it how and where you want to, no strings attached. $500 in coupons sounds pretty weak by comparison. But unless you're in abject poverty and you absolutely need the cash, I'd argue you're better off with the coupons. Why? Because when you get paid, you pay tax on it. That $500 is getting taxed somewhere around 20% for most people. After Uncle Sam and your state take their cut, that $500 is now $400. And let's not forget that when you go to spend it, you're losing another 7% in sales tax. Once you realize that you'd be lucky to get $370 worth of stuff with that $500 bonus, that $500 of savings in the other envelope starts looking awfully good. People say a penny saved is a penny earned, but that's not true. A penny saved is more like 1.3 pennies earned. Everyone wants to earn more money, but the truth is, getting your costs down will probably get you a lot farther, a lot faster than fighting the uphill battle toward earning more. In this video, I'm going to show you several highly worthwhile ways to save your money so that you can rotate these saved dollars into assets. I've done every one of these myself, and the savings are easily in the thousands. And very importantly, the tax man gets nothing from it. Method number one is churning meal kits. Things like HelloFresh, Blue Apron, and EveryPlate. This sounds absurd on the surface. Getting food delivered sounds like an expensive luxury, and most of the time it is. But here's an example of why that perception is wrong. For just under $35, I got $120 worth of food. 6 recipes for 4 people is 24 meals. That's about a week's worth of dinners, and it cost me only $35. Here's an older example when I was able to stack discount codes. 12 meals, but I only had to pay shipping of $11. Everything else was free. I've got many examples of this because I've been running through these promotions on and off for over a year. The simple fact is, way too many meal kit companies popped up during the lockdowns 4 years ago, and the ones that are still in business are constantly marketing for new customers. And part of that marketing is to give really good promotions. The most fun part is any company you order from once and then cancel your subscription to will start sending you welcome back offers like this. Meals for 99 cents. A family of 4 can have a week of dinners for $30 once again. If you just bounce back and forth between EveryPlate, HelloFresh, Factor, Home Chef, Blue Apron, Gobble, and there's a ton more, then you'll end up with a stream of cheap food. The fastest way to get in this pipeline is just to Google EveryPlate meal kit discount or any other meal kit service, and they'll start you off with something like this $1.49 per meal offer. I won't share my referral to any meal kit service because I don't want you guys to think I'm getting paid to promote this. I could not be more serious about using this method. My only additional advice would be to also buy a 5-kilogram bag of rice at your local discount grocery store. We're Americans, we eat big, and some of these meal kits are smaller than what we're used to. Add a bowl of rice to the side and you'll only add a few pennies in cost to your dinners. Meal kit churning is an S-tier save loader method. I've easily saved a few $1,000s over the past 12 months, all of which ended up getting reinvested into income-producing assets. I recommend this in the strongest possible terms. Next is the Upside app. This gasoline discount app is heavily marketed, so you've probably heard of it before. But if you have not tried this yet, this is your sign to get in on this deal. Upside is straightforward. You indicate in the app where you're planning on getting gasoline, and it will tell you your cashback reward per gallon. It's not a ton, often it's less than 10 cents a gallon, but north of 20 cents a gallon is also pretty common. At some gas stations, you'll be required to upload a picture of the receipt into the app before you get your cash back. Some gas stations do not require that. It just depends on where you live. What Upside is doing is billing the gas station for bringing you in as a customer. Most gas stations barely make any money on the gas itself, and all their profit comes from the snack store and the repair center. Upside is basically a loss leader for the gas station, and you as the customer get a kickback from Upside. Over the past 3 years, I've received cash back of $1,580. Very importantly, since this is a rebate, it's not taxed. Granted, most of that return was during the lockdown when I was still commuting back and forth to work, and Upside was running additional promos to encourage people to use the app. Getting 40 cents back per gallon during lockdown was common, whereas now it's more like 15 cents. But now I'm also a YouTuber working in my basement, and I barely drive. So with this app, your mileage may vary. Upside isn't sponsoring this video, but I do have a referral in the description that will give you an extra $5 back on your first fill up. Upside also does discounts on grocery shopping and restaurants, but not near me, so this aspect may or may not work for you. It looks like a lot of pizza places are on here though. Upside isn't quite as good as meal kit churning, so ultimately it lands mid, but it is still definitely worth using. You will save money. Next up, we're going back to that food theme. We're going to get steeply discounted meals through the app Too Good To Go. This platform links you up with restaurants that are about to throw away their food because it's the end of the night and they're all out of customers. You as the user volunteer yourself earlier in the day to buy whatever meals the restaurant is about to ditch at closing. You don't know exactly what you're going to get because you don't know what the restaurant will have too much of at the end of the night. But for about 60 to 70% off the cost of a meal, you'll get a decent treat at a much lower price. I tried Too Good To Go a few times to make sure it's actually good. The first time I went to Moby Dick. For $4, I got a large bowl of rice with some bean sauce and a little bit of meat. It was not the best meal, but for $4, you can't expect that much. At least it was large. I tried again twice with Kava and got a pretty decent sized bowl each time for $5. This usually costs $15, so it was a steep discount, and I had no complaints. I noticed that more restaurants are jumping on this platform because it's a good way for them to sell a bunch of food they'd otherwise be throwing in the trash. So I expect more options to continue expanding. The issue with this app is, you have to go to the restaurant right before it closes. So if it's not convenient for you to go to Chipotle at 10 p.m., you can't really use Too Good To Go. But for those night owls among you, this is worth hopping on. In a similar vein, fast food apps themselves often have steeply discounted food too. Taco Bell is a great example, with some of their 1,500 calorie entrees going for $1 on Taco Tuesday. McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, they're also known for having great promotions. IHOP is goated. I got 15 free pancakes in the bank from their Stack Market just by signing up, opting into emails, and eating there once during happy hour, which was also discounted. As much as I enjoy Too Good To Go, it's not available all across the country, although there are similar apps that might be operating where you live. It's also usually available at pretty inconvenient times, so it's mid, but this is still worth using when the time is right. Next, let's get away from food and talk about how to pick up some much more varied stuff for free. Technically, you'll even make a little bit of money through cash back if you use your card. There are a couple Discord servers out there in which Amazon merchants will display an item they're selling on Amazon, and they will give you a 100% rebate to buy it. These are typically merchants that are dumping unsold inventory, or new merchants who need to boost their sales so that they get listed better on Amazon search. I've been using one of these servers for well over a year. The items I've picked up are pretty diverse. There's a good selection, and you can also request certain items and the merchants will message you if they have something available. Some of the things I've picked up are iPhone accessories like chargers and cases, hardware like this chainsaw, kids' toys, sunglasses, outdoor lighting, recording equipment for YouTube. If you need something, it's probably going to be there. There are even some items where the merchant will overpay you so that you're actually making money. This happens pretty often with vitamins and health products. Some people think this is a good opportunity to flip these items for a profit, and I've had some success with that. I recommend watching my freeloader challenge videos if that's something that you want to try. The catch is that most of the items require a 5-star review before you can get reimbursed. And a lot of the items are just junk, which is why you should always check the return policy first and make sure that you can return the item normally for a refund if you need. You should also not overuse this service by buying and reviewing tons of items. Amazon will stop your account from reviewing, which would cut you off from most of the items in the future. Limit yourself to 2 items per month. I don't want to share that server's link here, but I will share it in my own Discord. There is a link in the pinned comments of the Freeloader channel. Don't ask for it here, just search the pinned comments and you'll get server access. If you're using this resource to try to make money by flipping, this is mid. There are better ways to make money. But to save money, this is top tier. This is my go-to when I need something that I just really don't want to pay for. The next one is a common problem I see among people around my age, mid-30s and older. A decade or two ago, we all signed up to bank accounts at places like Bank of America, Chase, or Wells Fargo because that's what we had. And even if you didn't open an account at Wells Fargo, you might have one anyway. We all know that story. Problem is, back then, these banks were not paying any interest. If you opened a Bank of America account in the wake of the financial crisis, forget it. You're getting 0.1% interest on your savings, if you're lucky. Even now, Chase is usually giving no interest, up to 0.1%. And sometimes you have to pay a fee, too. These days, there are so many banks and credit unions out there offering well over 4% interest and a sign-up bonus. There's no reason to keep our balances at those big banks that are giving us next to nothing. So our move is to take our savings accounts, those emergency funds that we almost never touch, and put them somewhere that is actually going to bring us some interest. I took my $30,000 emergency fund out of Bank of America and put it in a regional bank called Valley Bank in early 2023, where it's earning about 4.4% interest. I earned almost $1,000 of interest at Valley, whereas I would have received about $30 at Bank of America. In 2024, my interest will be even higher due to compounding and the fact that I have all 12 months to earn. Changing banks can sound like a daunting task, but I promise it's not hard. Look for any FDIC insured bank, almost all of them are, and link your old bank to perform an ACH transfer. I'm a paranoid person, so I did multiple test transfers before moving the bulk of my balance. It's no problem. I might even go from Valley to this customer's bank for that 1% higher interest rate. That's $300 more per year for me. Beyond getting more from saving, there are some bank and credit card churning methods that you can use to actually profit and make way more money than this interest increase. I recommend watching my most recent Freeloader Challenge video if that interests you. This only takes half a day of effort, and the interest is really one of those rare examples of legitimately passive income. However, the average person is only collecting a few $100 a year off of this. $10,000 at 5% is $500, and unfortunately you do have to pay tax on it, so probably around $400 afterwards. This is a worthwhile activity, don't get me wrong, but there are more valuable methods out there. Swapping banks is ultimately mid. Similar to the bank situation, people around my age are still using the old model of wireless phone services. We all signed up with major networks like Verizon, Sprint, and AT&T, which were realistically our only options in 2008. I remember when we had to wait until 7 p.m. so that we could make calls without using minutes. Now we are all still using those old networks and grossly overpaying for the service. Of course, we don't want trash networks on our cell phones. We want good coverage. And that's why we stick to the big carriers. But most people don't know that the discount carriers like Boost, Mint, Cricket, etc. are all using major carrier networks. For example, here's 4 smaller carriers, all of which are using either the T-Mobile or Verizon networks. From the customer's point of view, that means we're not sacrificing coverage when we drop our expensive plans at the largest carriers. Unless you live out on the fringes where cell coverage is scarce and you're watching this video in 240p, I am extremely confident that spending 30 minutes to swap your wireless provider will save you a significant amount of money. And just for example, if swapping your provider saves you $600 per year, that's the equivalent of having an extra $15,000 earning you 4% interest. I mentioned interest on bank accounts earlier. If you don't have a balance that can earn you a substantial sum, then take those same returns by saving the money instead of earning it in interest. And even better, you're not paying tax on what you save by switching phone carriers. Meanwhile, you are paying tax on interest payments. Do the math, and saving $600 per year is the equivalent of earning interest on an extra $18,000 stashed in high-yield savings, just to put it into perspective. I've partnered with Mint Mobile in the past. My referral to Mint is still active, where you can browse Mint's current promotions. I'll leave the link in the description. Other solid options are US Mobile, which I use for my trap phone, and Metro from T-Mobile if you have a family of 5 or more. This does seem like a little extra work if you're on a family plan, but assuming you're a single person, you're the only person on your phone plan, this is definitely a top tier method. You can be finished in the amount of time it would take you to finish this video. So this might not be the strongest top tier method, but it is top tier nonetheless. Next up is dumpster diving. And although I've largely given up on this as a method of making money for the Freeloader Challenge, there is one area in which this still shines. The amount of food that gets thrown away at grocery stores is disgusting. Here's an entire dumpster behind my grocery store filled with fresh bread, and another filled with vegetables and more bread. But don't worry, I'm not recommending that you eat this food. Instead, I'm recommending that you compost it. All of this is perfectly suitable for a compost pile in your yard, or the forest where we keep ours. Swallowing your pride and occasionally reaching into a dumpster is a really good way to seed your compost so that you can have a productive garden months later. Additionally, check and see if your city has a Department of Public Works recycling center. Near my mother's house in New Jersey, the city runs a center in which people can drop off their brush, leaves, anything like that, and the city grinds it down into mulch or compost. It's completely free. You can drop off pretty much anything at no cost. And only the big waste, like refrigerators, incurs a nominal fee, and you can take as much of the compost and mulch as you'd like. This is the cross-section of environmentalism and saving money that I really love to see. If you're spending money on mulch or topsoil at Home Depot and haven't yet checked for a place like this in your hometown, then you're just wasting your money. Personally, I've seeded my compost with lots of tossed out food already, and by spring, I expect to be able to grow some really great crops. As interesting as this method can be, it's still just reaching into dumpsters to get compost. It's not exactly a groundbreaking method of saving money, but assuming you're interested in composting, this method of doing so is mid. And finally, to round it out, don't be overwhelmed or embarrassed by hitting a soup kitchen or food pantry. It drives me crazy when people say they're struggling to feed their families because there's free food across every city on the map. To test this out myself, I called up a local food pantry and gave a donation in exchange for a VIP tour. This place had canned goods, shelf-stable food, some soap, all kinds of things like that. What surprised me was how much fresh meat, fruit, and vegetables this place had. I always thought of food pantries where all of their stuff was shelf stable, but their priority really was to give fresh produce to the needy. This particular food pantry also has clothes up for grabs. And even better, they had resources for getting you in contact with other charity groups that can help you out in other areas beyond food and clothing. The point here is that these places are there to help. They're not here to hound you or call you lazy or a liar. They're there to give you good food, soap, and clothing without much hassle. And if you really are short on necessities, you should also be using your city's Buy Nothing group on Facebook. It's people just giving each other things that they don't need, and it's a perfect spot to score some really nice things beyond the necessities. Depending on how badly you actually need the assistance, this could be mid, it could be top. But assuming you're the type of person who would qualify for substantial assistance, this is a top-tier method. If you need this kind of help, do not be embarrassed. Make the phone call or walk in, people will hook you up. I hope this video has at least given you guys some ideas about how to save money and also shows you how impactful this can be. When you save, I want you to find ways of investing the additional money in an efficient manner, or even more importantly, paying off your debts. Join our free Discord, link in the description, where we share ways of making and saving money with practical, actionable methods that you can start today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on Discord.